So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Stacey Roberts-Brighton. I am the IPLS Professional Development Manager, and I'm joined this morning in the UK by Sarah White and Alan Yeoman, who will be talking us through the IPLS Global Citizenship, the curricular resources and the PD that goes alongside it. So you're going to get kind of an overview of everything that we offer with this new IPLS curriculum strand. I will be on hand to answer any technical questions, so just stick them in the Q&A or in the chat box and I will respond. If you've got any questions throughout, if there's a natural pause, then I might pop in with a question to Sarah and Alan. If not, we'll try and answer them at the end. And if we don't get round to all the questions, we'll send them out at a later date. This webinar is being recorded, so again, you can watch it later on if you need to, and you will receive a certificate of attendance for staying for the entire thing. So stay with us. So I'll now pass over to Sarah and Alan.
Hi Stacey, thanks ever so much. Hi everyone, it's great to see so many people. IPLS Global Citizenship, and I think it's a great time for Pearson to be launching this course at a time when really I think, you know, as a world we've really joined together, haven't we, with the pandemic. You know, lots of schools are really thinking about how they can ensure students become global citizens. That's what we want from our students, you know, with an awareness of worldwide issues that affect just not their country and community. Global Citizen looks at that, but also communities and countries worldwide. So it's really exciting curriculum that they've launched this September for iPrimary, and then by the end of the year we'll have our iLower Secondary available for everyone. And it joins the whole sort of stable now of IPLS curriculum. So what we're going to do in this session is have a look at the curriculum. We're going to have a look at the structure of it. We'll then move on and look at the planning and the resources available to support you in the classroom to teach it. We'll understand how you can sort of access that global citizenship. What does it really mean? And Alan will talk a bit about the PD that we offer as well to support it. Before I go any further, we're just going to do a quick poll to see who's joining us. Stacey, are you able to launch the first poll? We'd like to know what phase you teach. Are you primary? Are you lower secondary? Are you GCSE, A-level, or are you other? And if you scroll down on that screen, we'd like to know, are you familiar with teaching global citizenship, or maybe global perspectives, or maybe you have another name for the curriculum that you teach? That's great. The results coming in now. And it's really interesting. So we've got quite a spread. We've literally, I think we're nearly 50-50 primary to lower secondary. That's great. There are more primary, so that's fantastic this morning, and it's an exciting curricula for primary, I think. And we have some GCSE and A-level teachers. I'm always interested to know what the other are, but we haven't got time to explore that this morning. And then again, a pretty even split between people who have taught global citizen or global perspectives before. Some haven't, and some are completely new to it, so that's fantastic. Okay, let's move on. Let's have a think about. Pearson now have got what they call their iProgress. That's their international curricula, and it covers everything from actually early years. So we've got 3-year-olds all the way through now, international students, primary, lower secondary, right through to GCSE and into A-level. So this is where global citizenship sits in this full curricula. It's the new horse in the stable, so to speak. We've now, a couple of years ago, launched the early years, and we have the world around us in the early years. That can be seen as a sort of entry level into global citizenship. We've got our English, maths, science and computing curricula, which are now well established, and ready for September was our primary global citizenship. And as I've said, coming very soon, I know we've got secondary people with us today, will be by the end of the year our secondary global citizenship. So it starts at 5 for primary, and it goes for 5 to 11-year-olds, whatever years or grades you call those. That's the year groups that we're covering. It then seamlessly, and we'll see how seamless that is in a moment, feeds into the lower secondary. So that's for your students who are 10 to 14, your pre-GCSE years. And I know in some schools they start their GCSEs, IGCSE, international GCSEs at different ages. Then it feeds into that international GCSE for global citizenship. So rather than starting that as possibly a 2-year, I know some schools do a 3-year international GCSE program, you can now begin that journey right back in the early primary years so that children are more than ever prepared for that GCSE when they face it at most students 15 to 16 years old. And what do we give you? Well, we give you a huge wealth of resources, the same as our other curricula. It's a very comprehensive suite of resources. It's there to support your curriculum planning and your classroom teaching. What I sort of see is giving you more than a skeleton. It's a skeleton with flesh on, but I always still say our teachers need to plan on the planning, and that's you think about how you're going to use it in your context. So we've got a detailed curriculum that covers all of your objectives for your year group. These are then organised into teaching units in carefully constructed schemes of work, and those are broken down into individual lesson plans. Now, most people think of a lesson as being just one, maybe 1 hour session. These lesson plans, you may find they take 1 or 2 sessions, and those are supported by photocopy sheets, a really fantastic workbook, and progress tests as well. So let's have a look at that in a little bit more detail so you can see what we've got to support you in teaching global citizenship. Well, the curriculum is broken down into strands. It's broken down into 7 key strands, and surprisingly and different to other sort of global curricula out there, it's the same strand from year 1 to year 9, but it's not the same content. This is a way of organising the objectives. What is the 7 strands? You can see them there. We've got social justice and equity, sustainable development, power and governance, identity, diversity, human rights, peace and conflict, globalisation and interdependence. Really key issues in the world today are covered under these headings. This familiar structure of using these 7 strands every year from year 1 to year 9 helps students build their knowledge and understanding. The ideas are linked year on year as they go deeper and deeper into each of these strands that they cover. Let's have a look at what that looks like. Because I know when I first came to it, I thought, oh, crumbs, are students going to get bored? Absolutely not, when you see how enormous these strands are and how they expand into really interesting topics for the student. So let's have a look at one strand. Let's take sustainable development. Well, sustainable development at both primary and lower secondary breaks down into these focus areas or teaching units. And you can see there under sustainable development, we've got 6. Planet Earth, climate change, big question and worry, I know, for a lot of young students today and adults. Biodiversity and habitat loss, connecting with nature, the future of our planet, energy, pollution, waste and recycling. All issues which I know, talking to teachers worldwide, worry us all. And it's interesting, I was working with colleagues in Ghana, and we were talking about what worried them. And I'm saying, you know, these things worry me too. There were no differences there in what was worrying them in their locality, their community, country and continent. So what I'm worried about here in the UK, within my community, my country, and actually within Europe. So we've got these huge similarities. So as you go into one of these units, you'll visit the unit year on year. So let's have a look at one of those. Let's look at connecting with nature. So the students will work on connecting with nature from year 1 all the way through to year 9. And let's have a look at what that looks like. Well, within connecting with nature, like year 1, the objective is ability to find beauty in nature. So what are we asking the students to do? Well, we're wanting them at that point to be able to describe nature and its beauty, be able to have the language to describe the patterns, the colours, the shapes, the smells, the sounds, appreciate what is natural in the world and what is man-made. They then work on connecting with nature as a unit. They revisit it each year. So it's very much that spiral curriculum. You keep coming back to the same unit, but you're building all the time. By the time they get to year 9, we can see here a year 9 objective to know the importance of bees and pollinators for plant reproduction and how they can be endangered by pesticides and human behaviour. And underneath is a bit of guidance about what we want students to be able to show us that they can do by the end of this unit, that they can describe that pivotal role of bees and other pollinators and how pesticides and some human behaviour can endanger them. So possibly in your school, you might find an area to wild. I've actually done this in my garden this year. It's something we're very worried about in the UK. I live in the countryside here, and the lack of bees, and it's having a huge impact. I live next to an orchard where there are beehives, and I've actually given over some of my garden to let the grass grow, to encourage more insects into my garden, because in the UK, there's a lot of concreting of gardens. We're losing that natural habitat. So it's about taking these ideas and thinking about them. How are they working within your community, in your country, and then globally as well? So let's stick with this idea of connecting with nature. And I'm just going to show you how all of these objectives build. So we can see here at year 1, that ability to find beauty in nature. By year 2, they're concerned about the lives of living organisms and an instinct, developing an instinct to protect them. As we go through into secondary, they've developed that depth of understanding, that knowledge, that now they're looking at geology of the earth and how it's formed. They're looking at the stars and planets. And then there we are, there's that objective with bees in as well. So whilst they're revisiting that focus, that unit, they are not repeating what they learned the previous year in terms of objectives. They're broadening out, developing that understanding and that knowledge as they go through the curricula. So what do we give you to help you do all of this? Because it's quite a lot to come up with it yourself. Well, we've got very comprehensive curricular documents from year 1 to year 9. They will give you all of the objectives, so you can see all of the objectives for each year group, and you can see there's some guidance. But you don't work from the guidance. We take that one step further for you, and we give you the schemes of work. So that takes the objectives that the students are going to work on, and it gives you lots of ideas, practical ideas that you can use in your classroom to teach that objective, as well as highlighting cross-curricular links and the practical things that our students can do. But we don't leave it there. As all of our IPLS users know, we go that step further and we give you a comprehensive set of lesson plans. Now, the thing I love about our lesson plans, and anyone who trains with me will know I get really excited about this and I strongly emphasize it, they are in Word because we want you to edit them. This is us giving you a basis of a lesson. Everything's there, you could work through it and just teach it, but we want you to take it and plan on the planning. Think about it and think about how is it going to work for your students in your context. So think about differentiation, think about your environment. How will your children respond to these activities? And look at active learning, critical thinking within it. So they are editable for you to add your own ideas. So you're given all of your planning. And I think as a teacher, who spent my Sunday evenings the night before my week started here in the UK, planning my week ahead, this is a great asset. So also we can give you additional resources to support you in the classroom. As you can see on the plans, you've got all the physical resources you need, and they are the sorts of things you're likely to have anyhow in your classroom. I don't think there's many schools without a map of the world. Then we've got photocopyable resources. We give those to you, and there's an example there on the left in terms of handouts. We also give you useful web links. So you don't need to spend all that time searching to find appropriate web links. We give them to you. Also, the efficacy of these websites has been checked, and the fact that they are appropriate for children and young students has also been checked. And then very excitingly, we've got our workbooks to complement what you're doing in the class. And I want to stress here, as I do in all the training, the workbook complements the work in the classroom. It's not the backbone. We don't work from the workbook out to the activities. We work from the activities, and the workbook, I like to call them a journal, is really a way of recording what the children have done and challenging their ideas. The workbooks are terrific as well, because if we dig into them, let's have a look. You can see there's an information page for the students. It tells them their objective. They know exactly what they're working towards and what they're going to learn in this unit. And all importantly, for our English as an additional language students, you've got the key vocabulary there. And then it's some think about. This is what we're thinking about. This is sort of like our big question as we work through this unit. So every unit has its information page, and then at the bottom, an example there from a Year 8 textbook, which will be coming soon, certainly by the end of the year. You can see it's a place for students to record their thoughts, ideas, the work they've done collaboratively within their group. So that's everything that we're giving you. That's how the curriculum is structured, everything you've got in terms of planning, and a quick dip into everything that we've got to support you in terms of teaching our new curriculum, Global Citizenship. I keep wanting to say Golden Citizenship, but maybe it should be Golden Global Citizenship. I'm going to hand over to Alan now, who's going to dig a little bit more into actually the curriculum and what it is we're trying to develop in terms of the knowledge and skills in our students. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everybody. My name's Alan. Hopefully you saw quite an in-depth overview of what's included in the programme. I really wanted us to have a think about what is global citizenship. Okay? It's a term that's used in lots of different places with different ideas behind it. So I'm going to ask everybody just to pause for a moment and just have a look at those 6 statements that I've put on screen. Analysing, learning facts, discussing, researching, working independently, and that learning how to debate. There are 6 elements that I think some people consider to be part of global citizenship. Okay? I'm just going to ask you in the chat, okay, so along the bottom, you've got a button that says chat. I'm going to just say, oh, who did that go? Who clicked? Who dared to click in my slide? There we go, it's back. I'm going to ask you just to try and put them into an order. Which one do you think is important or the most important in terms of what global citizenship, I nearly said golden as well, what global citizenship is all about? So if you think number 3 is the first one, put 3, then 5, then 1, then 2, then 6, then 4. Don't spend too long on this. I'm only going to give you a minute or 2 just to put into the chat the numbers, just the numbers, and we'll see what people think. It's an interesting one to do with yourselves, but it's also one that you might want to do with learners at a later date. So just looking at what's coming in, we've got a few people, and completely anonymous to me, learning facts about the world's coming through is quite important. The idea of discussions coming out as well. Somebody, thank you very much, has said all of them. Yep, yes, they are all important. Yep. And so we've got 2, then number 4. I'm just trying to get the researching coming out as an important one as well. I'll give you another 30 seconds or something, just in case anybody's still typing. Okay, there's quite a variety of ideas coming in there, quite a variety of ideas. Okay. One of the things we did as we were working with this, we actually went and we interviewed or spoke to both teachers, adults, everybody to collect their ideas of what they thought global citizenship was about. And these are just a handful of the quotes that came in from people we spoke to. So this idea of understanding and appreciating others, you know, we all, I don't know where any of you are, I'll be honest, and I know you're from all around the world. Okay, I'm in Scotland. I don't have a full appreciation of everybody else's culture and beliefs. So that came out as quite a strong comment from somebody. I did love the child who came back with the global citizenship was the way to become a diplomat. That was an interesting answer, but possibly one of my favourites. Okay? Working together with others. We'll just bring the rest of these up so they're all up on screen. Right? That's really what came out of it. You know, from listening to other people, from, you know, learning about, appreciating, knowing more about. Okay, these are all parts of global citizenship. But here's one definition that I found, and this came from the UN. Now, I'm not going to read it. I'll give you a second to read it yourselves, and then we'll talk through it. Okay, I hope everybody got a chance to just read that. Now, there's quite a few bits of that, when I saw that, jumped straight out at me. I've tried to highlight them as best I can. I don't know if somebody else is clicking there. There we go. And it's about how, as a global citizen, we're members of multiple different networks. Okay? We're not just single people sitting in our own house or our own school or our own workplace in a sort of a little isolated silo all by ourselves. Okay? We're part of these varied and, you know, many different groups. And that's a big change. That's, you know, the way the world has changed and technology has made a lot of that possible. If I think back to my own childhood and think about the networks, and this is possibly the same for a lot of us, the networks I was a member of. Okay? First of all, my family. We all lived in the one house. And if I even took my extended family, we probably lived within 10 kilometres of each other. Okay, so there's quite a small network. I was a member of some social groups and sports clubs and other things like that, where my network may be extended to 20 kilometres, but everybody in that network had a similar view, and we were all in that network for the same reason, either as a family member or with a common interest. Global citizenship is about bringing everybody together, multiple, diverse, non-local. Okay, that's really what we're looking at. And going back to those previous slides, you know, this idea working together, working beyond our own four walls, and appreciation of others. And that last bit I've highlighted down the bottom. Okay, why are we doing that? To benefit everybody. Okay, we're not just trying to benefit ourselves. It will be a massive benefit to us. You know, if we have this greater appreciation and understanding of the wider world and its cultures. But the reason we are doing it is so that we can benefit others as well as ourselves. That came from the UN website. There are other definitions of what global citizenship is. That was my favourite one. Other definitions follow a very similar lines as that one up there. So it's not just about learning about other cultures. Okay, it's not just learning about the other world, it's learning how to work together. The way that our IPLS program works for this is it's through, yes, we we have all the things we saw from Sarah there about teaching of knowledge. But what we're really doing is teaching skills. And if I just bring all of these up on screen, there we go, there they all are there. That's what we're actually doing. You know, if we can teach children the skill of collaboration, being able to work with each other through communication, okay, by researching and not just taking facts as they are, you know, but actually analysing and evaluating what they have found and then reflecting upon that. Okay. When I put this slide together at first, I had a slight mild panic attack because I thought, I've used that slide before. We've got all that before. I can't use the same slide again. And then it took a moment to be realised that why we don't have that slide looking like that, but we've got that same information throughout IPLS. Those skills really sum up what IPLS is about and the approach of active learning. If anybody's attended any of our previous training and any of the implementation training on IPLS, you will have heard us and you will have talked about all of those things as well. So it sits perfectly inside the IPLS programme with the approach that we take to our teaching for that programme. Please don't think, oh dear, we did that just a little bit too much, one click too many there, I'll just take that back. I can get rid of that one as well. There we go. You will fit global, I've got to stop saying, Sarah, you've really troubled me with this golden citizenship now every time I go to say it. You will timetable global citizenship into your weekly programme. But it's not something that just stands all by itself. Okay? It takes a full cross-curricular approach. Okay? And if I just go back to one of the shots that Sarah showed earlier on, the planning. And I'm just going to try and zoom in on just a little bit of it there. That little bit of the plan there, okay? When you zoom in on that, you will see that the plans are actually quite explicit about those cross-curricular links. So that one, we're going to use English, personal social, art, citizenship, and possibly others as well. So it doesn't just sit on its own, it joins up with everything else that we're doing in the classroom. Hopefully that somebody's, so apologies for that then. I don't know if it's my mouse is taking on a life of its own or if someone else is clicking away. Maybe me. There we go. Take it back to that one there. I'm sure we can edit that out the video later on. Once we've been through that teaching cycle with them, we want to make sure that have we taught effectively? You know, that's what the assessment is about. Okay? And it's going to inform our future planning and where we're going with it. So like other IPS elements, it comes complete with all the assessment material. Every unit, which is that block of 6, maybe 8 lessons, looking at one particular aspect, okay, you get a progress test for the end of that unit. Okay. And then each year group, currently only at primary, the secondary is coming the end of this year, I think. Hopefully someone can just confirm that date for me. I'm sure that's when it's planned. You have the end of year test. So you've got that. We have been looking at this aspect for the last 6 lessons. Here's the progress test. And then you've got the full end of year test as well. And what every teacher likes is the marking guidance. Okay. Yes, we have to go through that marking process with them. Yes, we know the answers, but the marking guidance is going to give us so much help with that and give us so much extra information as well. What I'll do then, I'm just going to very quickly share up my screen with you just to show you how the resources are laid out online. And I'll just open up 1 or 2 of those assessments to let you see what they look like. Because what we want to make sure is that these are not stressful. And I know different schools have different approaches to assessment and maybe have an assessment week each term and whatever, you could start thinking about how you might use them. Right, I'm just going to share my screen. I don't know why that keeps changing. I'm not even touching anything. There we go. Now I'm hoping, because I'm hoping that means everybody can now see my screen. I've logged on to the Active Learn Primary website, which is where all those IPLS resources are. Now, I know some of you are very, very familiar with this. So I'm just going to go into the iPrimary and into the resources, because again, that's where the maths, the science, the global citizenship, what did I miss out? English, computing, and the world around us. If I just select the global citizenship, you can see we've got everything organized under the different year groups up at the top there. So if you're teaching year 5, 10-year-olds, you would get all the information for them there. Sarah highlighted some of these things earlier on. You've got the full curriculum, you've got the year stage curriculum, you've got the scheme of work, and if you scroll on down, you come to the individual lesson plans. Everything's there as a Word file, completely editable. The question sheets, that's our assessment. And there you can see we've got progress tests, and if I scroll down, we should come to the year 5 end of year test there. I've opened a couple up just for speed, because it sometimes takes a moment for them to open up. So here's one here. We've got, this is a year 4 test, and you see they're bright enough, they're colourful, they're not intimidating. You know, I certainly don't think they are. That when we use these with our class, they're not put off. They're similar to the worksheets that they've been using. So now we've got multiple choice, true or false, 3 possible, reasons, etc. They're nice. They're challenging in the questions, but they're not challenging in the layout or in the format. And if I just quickly change that screen, here's an end of year test. Again, it's looking very similar. So children become familiar with that format. If you're using the English progress tests, which come from Bug Club and other places, they look almost identical. Slightly different colour scheme, but the same approach as everything else has got within IPLS. I'm just going to stop that screen share. And if someone could bring the PowerPoint back up, because it wasn't me that was sharing the PowerPoint, someone else was doing that for me. I think that's why we were getting a couple of things jumping about. There we go. So those progress tests, they just finished the package off. We've got all the teaching stuff, but where are we going next? And that marking guidance is really going to help you with it as well. I don't know if I've got control. Could somebody just, Sarah, could you advance that to the next slide? I was trying there and again. There we go. That's the package that you get. As with everything else, we offer professional development on the course as well. I noticed that earlier on in the chat, and I think in the Q&A, a couple of people expressed an interest in that already. Okay. We've just recently finished developing that, and we've delivered it a few times and made a couple of tweaks to the course. So it's now officially ready to go. I think it's maybe the best way of describing it. Okay. It's a 3-hour course, like many of our others, okay? But it is proper professional development. It's not like this. People don't sit and listen to us for 3 hours. Okay? It's workshop based. It's an opportunity during that, as we work through it, for people to pause and to think about their school and their classroom and their pupils. We talk people through it, but then it's about putting it into practice themselves. You do, as always, get one of these beautiful certificates. Look at that. Who wouldn't be proud of that certificate on their wall? Because in our professional development record, or I know in some schools these are actually displayed, because they have value. You know, it shows that you have been through something and you have developed yourself. Right, I think that was all I wanted to say. I think the next slide says any questions. I know Stacey's been working away in the background there, dealing with some of the questions in there. Are there any common themes coming out in the questions, Stacey?
Well, I think you guys have done such a good job that we don't actually have many questions.
Okay.
But what I will do is I will just read out some of the questions that have come up that kind of I've been able to answer as we're going along. We do actually have, we have some questions coming into the chat box now. So let's go to those first.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So how do we divert the attention of pupils from the idea of playing games with their smartphones? I think this is kind of a general question, actually, in terms of teaching.
I think that's one where I can't see who that's from. Needs to come to the classroom management session that we cover. And that's a sort of question that would come up there, really, whereby we start looking at different sort of students' behaviours, obviously distractions, and actually how you manage that in a classroom management way, really, rather than a global citizenship question.
Yeah, the classroom management course covers a lot of those aspects of teaching, and you know, you're looking at engagement and those kind of things. So yeah.
We do have a question around on global citizenship for ILO secondary. The curriculum and documents are all ready to go for you on the platform. Resourcing will be available at the end of this year. So you are free to start teaching it. We do have kind of an ALP, ALDS question at the platform that we use, so I'll get back to you separately if that's okay. Oh,
on there, Stacey. It's going to be challenging to teach this curriculum to young students like year 1 and year 2. And that's a really good question, but actually it's not, because all of the curriculum documents, the lesson plans are very, very age appropriate. So as I said earlier on, we've got our early years curriculum where we look at the world around us, which is looking at all those cross-curricular ideas. And as I say, it leads in nicely to global citizenship. All of the activities are very age appropriate. So if you go onto our Pearson website and have a look at the workbook for year 1, you'll see that when we're looking at things like social justice, actually what we're talking about is fairness for year 1. What's fair and what's unfair? And so they're looking at very much in a sort of personal way for them, because at year 1, that's what we're teaching them, is that we need to be fair when we're working in a group and we're playing. So all of those objectives are very age appropriate. You're not dealing with tricky global concepts with year 1 and year 2. They're very much things that affect a year 1 child or a 5-year-old. So things like fairness, playing with their friends, and then that builds through into that social equity when they're a little bit older, and justice idea.
Cool.
So I hope that one your mind at rest with sort of how the younger ones can cope with it.
Yeah, I think you also touched, there is a question around what's the difference between global citizenship and the world around us. I think you've also touched on that as well.
Yeah, world around us is in early years we have maths and English, and then there isn't a discrete science unit or geography unit or PSHE unit. It comes under world around us. So just because it's the early years curriculum, it will cover lots of sort of different aspects, and science aspects, some personal, social and health education aspects. And that's why it feeds in so nicely into global citizenship and the year 1 curriculum.
Yeah, we have quite a few more questions coming in.
It's got busy suddenly, nice. Hasn't it? Yeah.
It's gotten very busy. I'm trying to keep up with every question.
About workbooks. No, they're not online. They are just hard copies.
Yeah.
And no, not only geography teachers are the ones to teach this subject. Any teacher can teach it. We've given all the guidance for you to be able to teach it.
And that's quite interesting, Stacey, because as I say, I've delivered this a couple of times now, and I've had a full range of teachers come on our training, and very, very different backgrounds. So it's a sort of case of mindset. Don't think of it that you've got to be a geography teacher to teach this. We give you everything, so you can come from any discipline into teaching this at primary and lower secondary. You don't have to have specialists. We will give you that professional development and confidence to be able to teach it, the subject in your school. I think you're going to be really excited about by what you're doing, actually. There's some fantastic ideas and lessons there.
And I think there's a good one that's just come in. So how do we intend to bridge the reality gap in different diversity while teaching a common curriculum? Do we have any project-based approach that will weave the global ideas in children? It's kind of a bit of a loaded question.
I think it is a good question. And yes, you know, Alan was talking there about the skills. This is quite project-based. So at the heart of all the lesson plans, you'll see it's not about going off and learning facts about the world. That is not what this curriculum's about. It is about researching, facing problems and issues, considering them, evaluating them, analysing what's out there. And for a lot of the subject areas, the children are putting together a project or planning an idea that they can launch within their own school, maybe to resolve a problem that they've highlighted. I think it's such a big.
When you get an opportunity to look at the plan.
Yeah, it's hard to sort of give you just one example, because then I know people just focus on that one example. But have a look online. There are some great examples on the Pearson website of the workbooks and the curriculum up there as well.
I think just going back to that one about the project-based, I think if you think on the planning as the units as being mini projects, and doing it that way, because as Sarah said, it's not about learning facts, it's about that appreciation of what global citizenship is, and the collaboration, the research, the analysing, etc.
It's great. There's lots of people there really excited about starting and saying when can we start?
Yep. So the primary material is now all available. Mm-hmm. So you can start but as soon as we finish this, I guess.
Yeah.
I would advise going and having a look at a plan first of all before you dive straight in. But as soon as you're ready, you can start with the primary materials.
Yeah, I think the next question, I think, is just a reiteration of what you guys have said slightly earlier on, that it's more about the lesson plans and the curriculum documents that you need to teach. So the question is it easy to use the resources without the lesson plans, schemes and curriculum content? In short, I'd say no.
I'm going to say no. No, it is not a workbook, a textbook-based curriculum. See the workbook as an additional resource. So it's somewhere where the children can, the students can sort of write their thoughts, their ideas, their planning, their discussion. It's a follow-up activity, or it's possibly even a homework activity. You might ask them to do one of the activities and bring it in as your starting point. But no, it's not the core. And that's the same with all of our international primary lower secondary resources. Your curriculum, your schemes of work and lesson plans are your core. We don't produce it so that you work from the textbook. That's your curriculum. That's not the way it works. It works, your planning documents are your core. And if we have textbooks and workbooks, they are your resources to teach the curriculum. And that's what we cover very much in the professional development, to give teachers the confidence to do that. Yeah. But it's not about turning the page in the textbook, next page, next question. It's about so much more than that, because that's what teaching is.
Thank you. I think I've got quite a nice question here. How do we deal with the pupils who have no idea or have no real background on what global citizenship is? I think I'm going to reword this question in, how do we engage pupils who have no experience of being a global citizen, or who don't have the experience of other cultures or other ways of living? How do we engage pupils?
I would say that the programme is put together to really bridge that gap in many ways, because I would say there's lots of people don't really have any experience of being a global citizenship, especially, you know, when we're young. And if you look through the planning, it brings all that in through research, through discussion, through the sharing of ideas. Yes, we will find out about other cultures as we're doing that, and that's how that would be developed through the planning that's there. I don't know, what do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I think the thing when you really get into the planning, you'll realise that it always starts at where the learner is.
Yeah.
So you're always looking at these issues locally, very locally, within your classroom, within your school, within your community, within your country, before you begin to look at it in any sort of worldwide context. And again, that's done at the right level for the students as well. So I think on one of those progress tests that Alan showed, it talked about why is the Earth called a blue planet? So you'll be looking at the use of water in your school, in your community, maybe in their homes, building it into actually how important water is for countries. So we have dry countries, we have countries where there's a lot of water, we have a lot of flooding in the UK. And then we look at water on the planet. So children are sort of taken to concepts that are too big for them without, as I think you could see on that slide I showed you, where the objectives are highly progressive, and we always start with where the children are, our learners, whatever age they're at. Whether they're secondary or primary, we start with where they are, and usually within your classroom, in your school and your community.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't seem to have many more questions now coming in. We do have how long should a class of global citizenship be in primary and secondary?
That's a how long's a piece of string question.
Yeah, it's a bit about, the very words I was about to say, how long's a piece of string? I'm loath to put a time on it, but I mean, I've got a number in my head. Will we give a time?
No, I think when you look at the lesson plans, Alan, there's I would think back to my sort of time in the classroom and teaching, and I used to have an hour-long lesson. And I know some schools have 45 minutes, or they have 2 blocks of 45 minutes. The lesson plans are not a dictate to you. You'll see that there's some quite open-ended ideas there. So if you have a shorter lesson, then you'll look at that lesson plan. As I said to them, they sort of said earlier on, possibly that will take you 2 lessons to cover.
Yeah.
And it's not as if you're going to struggle to get through the whole curriculum in a year. What we normally give you is 30 weeks of planning. But you'll find that in some of those lessons, you might say, well, actually, this is great. The children are loving this. So I'm going to take 2 lessons, even 3, on some of the lesson plans I've looked at over that lesson. And other lessons, they will be a bit shorter, a bit quicker. So you have no worry about the coverage. And I wouldn't worry looking at those lesson plans about your timing. I think you can meet the needs of a 45-minute lesson, an hour lesson, or an hour-and-a-half lesson quite easily within those lesson plans. And of course, they're in Word, so they are editable.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I think if the planning, you can pick that planning up and teach it exactly as it is, or you can pick up that planning and make it your own, you know, by adapting it. And that's why there is Word files, so that you're not being dictated to by the plan. You know, be informed by what's happening in the classroom, be informed by the reaction of your pupils, because sometimes we all know we go to teach something and it just goes really, really well, and other times there's maybe a misconception or a block in the learning that needs a little bit more time spent on it. So take them and be flexible with them.
And that's great that I've just seen on the one of the chats is in Nairobi, you've already got your workbooks and they're detailed, colourful and exciting to use. I know I was talking to colleagues in another country and they were just saying how really high quality and nice the workbooks are. So that's great. And we'd love to hear from you if you want to email Stacey about, you know, your experience with using Global Citizenship, because of course it is really brand new. Yeah,
please do get in touch. We haven't got any other questions that have come in. I think everyone kind of had a flurry of excitement and it's kind of calmed down a little bit now. But if you do have any more questions, please do put them in the chat box. I'm going to put my email address in there as well. So if you didn't get to ask a question, or if we didn't answer it, because there's a few that I will get back to people on, then please feel free to email me. The recording of the webinar will be available as soon as possible, and you will all receive it in your inboxes. It will also go up on our blog and events page, so you can rewatch it at any point. You will all get a certificate of attendance from this session, and I think a few people referred to the PD training certificate. I would recommend speaking to your local Pearson representative, and then you'll most likely end up coming to see me again. But if you speak to your local Pearson representative, and then they will be able to support you in becoming an IPLS school if you're not one already, and then you can take full advantage of all the IPLS PD that we have available for you. Oh, we have a few more questions come in, but we're almost at the hour. So what I will do is I'll make a note of these questions and then I can get back to you individually. But I would just like to thank everyone on the session this morning. Thank you for your engagement and sticking with us. And also a huge thanks to Sarah and Alan for both putting together this webinar, delivering it, and then answering all of your questions. So thank you very much.